Hello and welcome back to Cooking the Books with me, Gilly Smith, the podcast which takes us through 4 food moments from the books of our favourite food writers. It's about life through the prism of food. And this week we're going back to Rockwater in Hove to talk live to Melissa Hemsley, food writer of 6 best-selling cookbooks. Her latest, Real Healthy, is a delicious reminder of how to unprocess our diet with easy, everyday recipes. In front of an audience, we began by celebrating some very special news.
We are here tonight to celebrate, actually, because Real Healthy has become a Sunday Times bestseller. So congratulations. This is your 6th book, isn't it? And it's an important book. All your books are important. And Melissa and I do a lot of other work together for the Food Foundation. And she works for the Felix Project and the Prince's Trust. And we talk a lot about, what to do with a platform as big as hers. And she does wonderful things with it with a very light touch. So tonight we are going to talk about ultra-processed foods. We are going to talk about how to avoid the multinationals getting into your brain by cooking really lovely food. How much of an activist do you feel?
Oh, she went big there, didn't she? Straight in. How much of an activist do I feel? I think we probably all are being activists in everything we do every time we spend money. We have power in the fact that we spend money and we decide where to spend it and with whom. And I think we're all taking care of people in the community in our own ways, whether it's a religious way or we have a direct debit with a charity that we love, that we've always done. And maybe we bank with a certain bank or we have our veg box with a certain group of people. And we keep our high streets alive by supporting our independent bookshops and love them for it. Woo, woo, woo. And those are all, to some people, easy choices to make. But for other people, unless someone's shown them how, they might not think they had the option. So I guess we're all activists. I 100% could be doing so much more. And I have been having a sort of, this is a podcast, so you're going to have to describe what I'm doing, but you're going to have to keep reminding me this is a podcast because I may swear. And do we have a bleeper?
You're all right.
Rachel Roddy swore. Okay, fine. Rachel Roddy swore. Okay, fine. I shall then. But where was I? Oh, this is the year that I became a mum and my time has shrunk even more and I haven't slept for a year. And this year I've been going, okay, I've kept a human alive, the baby. I've kept another human alive, me. But I was definitely doing a whole, oh my God, I haven't fulfilled this or I haven't done, I wanted to do more for the Food Foundation, way over there. I wanted to do more for Felix Project. I wanted to do loads more. When you just sort of each month...
Real Junk Food Project.
And the Real Junk Food Project, I haven't done anything for. But you don't need me. You're amazing, but I will. And so I've been having this thought this year of what does... I don't know, does anyone else ever feel in the summer this pressure, which I think is a bit unnecessary sometimes. Probably a lot of our pressures are, but gosh, I've got to have a good summer and I've got to relax and I've got to do certain things and I've got to enjoy the weather. And every time the sun comes out, I better be out in it and I better see all the friends I haven't seen since before COVID. Anyone got friends they still haven't seen since before COVID? And I want to sleep in and I want to read and I want to watch a movie and I want to start Bridgerton and I want to blah, blah, blah. And then there's loads you want to do before it gets dark and cold. And then it's just unnecessary pressure. I've forgotten the question. But my point is...
Everyday activism.
I would like to be more present every day. I'm at this point, I don't know how everyone else says this. I feel like I want to be more present and appreciate my lot and be grateful for it more and appreciate how lucky and safe and healthy I am and how I've got the baby I've been longing for years. And then I also really, really, because I feel that I'm in a fortunate position, know that I must and should do more. And I'm trying to work out at the moment how best I can use time wisely to do more. And I think, as you said at the beginning, I've got a platform. How best can I use my platform? Because, I mean, I don't know if I'm anyone here on TikTok.
Yeah, I think you've got
quite a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Will you show me how? Okay, because I remember when we moved from blogs to Instagram and it felt like a big move, and now it's Substack and podcast, and then it's TikToks. I feel like I haven't quite caught up with the best way to use what I've got. And when I say use what I've got, I'm not saying my following, I'm using them. I just mean I want to communicate better while giving myself enough time to be a mum and enjoy. What a weird first answer. I'm so sorry. I'm warming up now. I promise I'll do better answers. But do you know what? Question, Gilly.
No, I mean, wait, do you know what? It really reminds me of a lot of the answers you've given me over the years too, because you give yourself a really hard time. You know, I've literally made a whole episode with Melissa for the Food Foundation podcast about what it means to be an influencer. And you kind of gave me the same, you know, flagellation answer. I'm not doing enough. We've talked about mental health a lot. You're constantly balancing. And do you know what? When I see you put a post, I think, oh my God, what's she doing? Everybody's going to pile in with some, you know, trite answer. And you go through every single one of them and answer it or put a little heart by it. How do you balance your life? I mean, you told me once that you actually just literally put your phone away.
Oh, I'm terrible with my phone. I do try to put it away, especially because I've noticed my baby noticing it, which is terrible. But also, I don't know. I don't know what it means to, I guess the most important thing I feel is I'm here essentially saying, I've written a book. Please, I love it. Please love it too. But no, that's no pressure. I just mean that as a concept. And then at the same time, it's you work really hard on it. You want to write a book. You hope it's important. You hope people that buy it really enjoy it. And then I guess some of us also want it to be such good value for money because it's a luxury item, a book. Especially when people can find fantastic recipes for free all over their social media. And I give lots and lots away for free on social media because I think it's really important that everybody has access to good food. But I guess I've there's no rules for how much you share and give. And I think I'll always err on the side of hoping to give more for the people that support me because I'm thankful for it. It allows me, I mean, I can't believe I'm on my 6th book. It's a total privilege that I get to cook food and eat it as my job. I mean, I'm lucky.
Yeah. I mean, you are, and how you managed to do that with a 1-year-old, I have
with lots of help.
Yes, no, you do get
that. Will probably be another episode, I think, of just how great other people are at helping and the great it is when you let them.
Yeah,
I mean, I resisted from.
Well, Anna Jones said this exactly the same thing. Team. It's all about having a team.
Team.
Let's talk about the book. It's not a diet book. It has a foreword by Tim Spector, a proper badge of approval. It's a very serious book in many ways. It is about fighting I did an interview fairly recently with Chris Van Tulleken, who talked about UPF and the multinationals who make ultra-processed food as predators. And we are working against that because UPF literally hacks your brain. It makes you addicted to it. This is a book that enables people to go a different route. Is that the gentle Melissa Hemsley way of being the kind of, you know, the disruptor? Because you do use the word disrupt, let me just say.
I think I haven't yet met anyone who says, I want to eat more ultra-processed foods. Haven't met them. And we could talk for ages, but there's no point. It's a bit like, you know, the climate crisis. You could talk for ages about what the climate crisis is. You could talk for ages about what ultra-processed foods are. But in a way, what might be simpler is to say, let's all just try and be kinder to the planet, if we're talking climate crisis, and let's put more back into it than we take away. And the same thing I feel with ultra-processed foods is rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of what ultra-processed foods are, you could almost just say, if we never say the word ultra-processed food, but just think real food and think food that is recognizable, familiar. I mean, the book's called Real Healthy, with the idea being it's real food, it's recognizable, it's realistic recipes, it's healthy and delicious. So I know lots of people. I mean, it's been out for 10 days and some people got books delivered, I think, like 3 days early. So some people have had it for 2 weeks and they have been cooking from it every day. They're like a third of the way through the recipes. I wake up every morning, I'm like, have you gone to bed? But they're loving it because they're living off the recipes. So like, this is just so easy. I can make 3 recipes in the time it might take me to normally make 1 dinner. And they can't believe it. And I don't think that what I'm saying is any different from what other people have said. But I think what people are telling me they like is they appreciate the way it's packaged together. Because I think a lot of people that write cookbooks are big fans of cooking with whole foods. But what I've really tried to do in this book is not just give you delicious recipes. So there's 90 of them. 90, there's more like 100, but there's 90 recipes. And then it's shopping lists, ideas for meal plans, meal prepping and batch cooking. And specifically for people that don't like meal prepping or batch cooking and are worried that meal prepping sounds really steamed chicken breast and sweet potato in some plastic Tupperware and you just dread eating it and everything smells like egg. It's not that. And then batch cooking for people that think, oh my God, I don't want to eat the same thing 5 nights in a row. So I've really tried to make that side of things as appealing and as easy and tempting as possible. And then also thinking about where all the kind of tricky, sticky, slippy areas that we do end up leaning on the ultra-processed foods in a way that we might not even be getting much from, you know, because there's certainly a place for going out. And like, I just think all food is there to be enjoyed. It's a mindset. So I think that when you go out and eat something that is considered ultra-processed food and you're happy to eat it, you're enjoying eating it, you're aware that you're eating it, that's one thing. But it's another when you just feel like you're kind of forced into eating it because you have no time and you're feeling so stressed out and you're feeling really pressured and you feel like your food choices are zero apart from that. And also when you feel that you're eating ultra-processed foods and you think they're not ultra-processed foods because you're not aware, because they haven't been labeled honestly, or perhaps they've gone even one step further and they've health haloed it and you think that you are making the better choice, and they're foxing us. Yeah. So that's really wrong. And we've got to do something about that. Right. Well, new government, 10 days in. Yeah. Get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's unpack some of that. So number one, let's define our terms. Ultra-processed food. How do you define ultra-processed food? I'll tell you what Chris Van Tollecken says in a minute.
Well, maybe lead with what Chris says, because what I really think is most helpful in the context of a cookbook is it's the opposite of the real food. So I think fruit, veg, whole grains, beans, pulses, spices, herbs, legumes. The ultra-processed food tends to be the ones that aren't those. And you can be Chris.
I mean, Chris
do it in Chris's voice.
The most simplistic way of doing it is if you can't cook it from scratch, if it's not in your kitchen, it's probably going to be ultra processed. But he says it's the processes that change the molecules of what we eat: modified, bleached, deodorized, hydrogenated, basically industrialized, synthetic emulsifiers, low-cal sweeteners, stabilizing gums, flavor compounds. It's just not food, is it? And that's what you do. You enable people to go back to real food and inexpensive food as well, to build beautiful salads, build smoothies. You use this and you show us how to build through diagrams to make really easily healthy food.
I think Chris says at one point that one of his colleagues, who's a scientist, says to him, when he talks about ultra-processed foods as being foods, she corrects him and says, it's not food, it's an industrially produced edible substance. And, you know, his book is really eye-opening. And if you've not read it, it's a great read. It's really good as an audiobook. Or you could just listen to Gilly's episode for a fantastic summary. And that is great for the deep dive on what ultra-processed food is. If you feel like me, okay, I sort of know what ultra-processed food is, and I certainly know what it isn't. So in my head, ultra-processed food is not necessarily the health-giving, nourishing food that I want to base my plate on. That's what real food is. That's what I want to concentrate on. So if you know that you don't want to eat so much of it, when you know that in the UK, we have the fantastic joy of being the number one UPF eaters in Europe, that's what we're best at, apparently. 4 times more than France and Italy, and that's 2/3 of our plate on average as an adult. And in under 14s, it's coming up to 80%. So when you know that is probably worse than you even thought, if I had to kind of Davina McCall High Street ask you like that, it's worse than I thought. So you know that's the stat. You know that, and you've heard the headlines that say that ultra-processed food is linked to serious poor mental and physical health outcomes. You know that the governments that we have had, will have, in the blink of an eye, 5 more, they're unlikely to do huge amounts about it. Certainly not keeping up with the damage that's been done. When you know, because the Food Foundation tells us that young palates, our kids and our grandkids, their taste buds are being disrupted, that they're worried, they're seriously concerned that children won't be able to tolerate vegetables, the bitter taste of vegetables in the future. They won't be able to form healthy eating habits as adults. We could go on.
Yeah.
So once you know all of that, there's an element of just, gosh, okay, either it's doom or gloom and we get really peed off, or we just say, right, the only thing we can do is take control and cook more. And for those that love to cook, you're like, yes. For those that love to cook and have no time, you're like, oh my gosh, is there not a magic pill? No. For those that don't like cooking, you're like, what? I thought I didn't have to cook anymore. But at the end of the day, it's your choice because it's your life. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. But for those of us that want to get from food what we deserve, which is, yes, the community spirit, the social element, the fuel, but also the actual nourishment that great food can give us, then we do need to cook. And so my job is, sorry, I've just gone off on a rant. My job is I must make you recipes that you will enjoy. That's what I said to myself every day when I was writing the recipe book. I was like, this is your 6th book. You don't bring out a book that's just like the one before. Like, make it amazing, make it value for money, make it worthwhile someone spending their hard-earned money on it. And so just fill it with tips and tricks and ways to get more out of your time in the kitchen.
Yeah. And it is about, the way that you use the word disrupting is you say you disrupt the reliance on UPF by teaching people and inspiring people, enabling people. But it's all about inspiring, isn't it? And food has to be appealing. It has to, You have to want to eat it. And your Instagram is a fabulous kind of everyday check-in to, I go in there every about sort of 12 o'clock most days and say, what shall I have for lunch today? And pretty much every day I get something from the back of the fridge, which is very much a Melissa Hemsley kind of thing. But also you inspire me. I'll do something that I probably wouldn't have done with some of the sort of the vinegars and the different sort of flavor bombs, just to elevate that taste. And that's the everyday activism, isn't it? That's where you enable people to think differently about food. And once you've got them once they're in really enjoying what they're doing, then why would they ever go back?
Well, I think that a lot of people that buy my books, they say to me, because they'll come and chat to me, and I love a chat after a talk, so you will find me anywhere around here, is that a lot of people are already cooking like this. Because I'm not, like I keep saying, I'm not saying anything new. Lots of people might say, I grew up like this, or I used to do this when I had more time. I loved the feeling of, on a Sunday, knowing what shopping was coming, a vague idea of a meal plan. It used to make me more excited for the week. It used to help my stress levels for the week, knowing what I was going to have here and what I was going to pull from the freezer there. And then it's just another habit and another muscle to flex. And I'm a Virgo. I've got diagnosed anxiety. One of my coping mechanisms is to create order, and meal plans is one of them. And I know it's not for everyone. And I like to know that my freezer has got things in it. So, for example, today I'm with you. But for me, my thing for my family was going into the freezer, and I knew there was a portion of chicken adobo, which is the Filipino unofficial national dish. My mum's from the Philippines, and it's chicken braised with vinegar and tons of garlic and bay leaves and whole black peppercorns. It's really lovely. And my gift for them, so that I could come and have a lovely night out in Brighton /Hove, is to, defrost that food. And so that's my kind of way of creating a bit of control and like comfort for my family. I get such a buzz out of that. Like I'm alive thinking of like, and maybe that's activism in the sense that my family probably be like, oh, well, let's get a takeaway. And I'm like, no, don't spend your money when there's food in the freezer. And that's very much from my Filipino mum who grew up with very little, my army dad. I love being resourceful at home. Like I'm terrible in every other part of my life. But I'm pretty good when it comes to not wasting at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, my gosh, baby-led weaning, all that food going everywhere. But luckily, I've got a dog. I had to really calm myself when I saw the food flying everywhere.
Let's start going through your 4 food moments. And we'll start with your 4th, but we'll make it your first.
Okay.
Because it's about your mum.
Oh.
And I cooked this the other day. It was absolutely delicious. Filipino lemongrass chicken. Tell us why you chose this one.
Why did I choose that one? Well, as you see, I've already talked about my mum. My mum is not, her name is Evangelina. We call her Vanji. She's not my best friend. I hung off her apron string. She taught me how to cut cake, and she brushed my hair, and we talked about boys kind of mum. But I have never appreciated her more than in my first year of motherhood. And I love seeing her be a grandma. And I'm also, now I'm, 30, am I 40? No, I'm 40. I think I'm 40 in September. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm like a proper grown up. I really starting to get what my mum's about. And I think, my God, like not only does she come from a totally other continent, another world, she came from inner city Manila. It's more like suburbia Manila, but it's like hectic Manila, and from a huge family. So she came from that culture, another culture completely. And then she had 2 daughters in the 80s in army barracks in England and Germany. So like one, like the English culture, and then also the army culture, I think must have just been so bizarre. If anyone's ever grown up in the forces or know,
you know that. Yeah.
You did? Yeah. Hello? Anyone else? It's quite a few of us here. It's like a whole nother world with like whole other rules and languages and things. So I think it must have been quite intense. And I don't think I rebelled. Whenever we'd have a fight with her, my sister would be like, at least we didn't do this. And, we'd like name all the things we didn't do, like proper teenage girls. But, we were really well behaved. But I really, really was like, when I'm older, I won't. And now I'm older and I do everything she told me to do. And I do everything she does. And I'm so like her. And I think she's amazing. So I'm glad I'm like her. But she inspires everything I do. And whenever I think I've thought of something clever, I realise she told me to do it.
Yeah. When I first met you, you cooked me a lunch of your mother's chicken noodle soup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first thing I ever ate of yours. She's always in the background when you're on Lorraine or your telly. She's there holding little Summer.
And people like talking about her. And I really wanted to start off by saying we didn't always have the easiest relationship, because I don't want it to come across like, oh, we're best friends. There's been definite moments of my life that I've really thought, I can't relate to you at all, or, I wish it was different. And then I, have got to the point where I just think, my gosh, like so many of the values that I think I like about myself, when you suddenly go, it's very easy, isn't it, to think, gosh, well, like my anxiety has really held me back, or my anxiety cripples me, or my infertility has really hurt me in this way and caused there's been a lot of that. And then I've got to the point where I'm like, oh, I like this about myself, or I am I allowed to even like that about myself? And then I realized a lot of it has come from values from my mum. So anyway, back to food. Gosh, sorry, I haven't had therapy this month. I've been too busy, so I'm sort of using you all. But anyway, back to lemongrass chicken. This recipe, see, some of you have got the books. Thank you very much. It's page 149. This is actually not a specific Filipino dish. There's 7,000 islands in the Philippines, and Filipinos get very cross when people think that Filipino food is all fried in really sweet sugary tomato sauce, because it's not. I don't know about anyone else, but I've not seen Filipino cookery shows infiltrate the market. I don't think I'm the right person to do it because I don't know enough, but maybe that could be the odyssey. Maybe we could do it together, Gilly, because I know you're very good at travel. Anyway, this is kind of an amalgamation of lots of the dishes my mum would make me off the cuff. So it's brothy, there's some coconut in there, there's always onions, garlic and ginger, always in my mum's cooking. And then there's lemongrass. And lemongrass is the ingredient that we always have a stick or two in the freezer. And I recommend you do as well if you don't already, because it's not always that easy to get lemongrass. And even if you just plonk it in some tea, it's one of the nicest things you'll ever do. And you'll feel amazing if you just suddenly someone comes around and you feel like, oh, I want to make them something, but you don't think, you think I've had 10 coffees today, I don't need another coffee. So lemongrass, ginger, chicken, coconut, brothy, there's some potatoes in there. The Philippines has got influence from Spain and China. It's just a lovely, lovely dish. And it's not too rich.
No, it's really
not
gentle.
Heavy.
It's a really easy cook. It was just one of those beautiful sort of easy dishes to have at the end of the day. I've been cooking Diana Henry over this weekend as well, because I interviewed her this morning. Coming soon to Cooking the Books. And
and me today.
Yes, wow. I know. Rick Stein next week. And with Diana, you really cook, don't you? Everything. You use so many different pans. And this was just a really easy, lovely midweek meal. Absolutely recommend it. Your lazy lasagna is kind of the same, isn't it? It's lots of food hacks in here.
I could have called every one of my recipes. The word lazy could have come into it. And I mean that with full no shame, because I don't really know that many people who are bouncing with energy at the end of the day. I like to cook a bit like this. I like
your eyes closed.
I just feel so overstimulated by dinner time. Doesn't everyone else? I mean, it's you're like, oh my God, but thinking. Yeah, but I think all of us, we're working so hard. Some of us have 2 jobs. And I mean, if you don't have 2 jobs, you've got two families, you've got your own family, and then you've got your parents, or you're looking after other people, and I feel like no matter how much we try and shed and spring clean, there's always stuff. So I just think, and I know there's a craze for tray bakes and one pots for good reason, but almost all my recipes are where you don't have to get another pan out, where you don't have to do an extra step, I won't. So there's minimal steps in this book. So I should say that. So lazy lasagna, I saw this concept on the old Instagram, and loads of people who were Italian were making it because they have the right to mess around with Italian recipes. So I was like, well, if they've done it, I'm not going to get shouted at. And the idea being that you cook everything. So you make your meat sauce, you make your bolognese sauce, which I make a lot with lentils, and I grate every veg that's hanging around into it, so it's veg packed. And then you do layers of lasagna straight in. And you don't even bother with the bechamel sauce. You put mozzarella on top, and then you can put a bit of cheese. And I know lots of people might think, but the white sauce layers are my favorite bit. You won't miss them in this. And it's luscious, and you make the meat sauce extra stocky, so it cooks the lasagna. And then you put it under the grill and you walk away, or you pour a glass of wine, and then you come out and it's just amazing.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Umami.
I mean, and then of course, when you have time for a 4-hour lasagna, you make a 4-hour lasagna.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's about getting real healthy food every day.
Every day.
Just having a bit of a blitz at the weekend.
Exactly. This is your Monday to Friday.
Yeah. Your third food moment is all about getting out again after you've been on one hell of a journey over the last 3 years, through IVF, through miscarriages, and you've been so brave and so honest about your journey. And I was very happy to hold little Summer in my arms when she was 6 weeks old.
Oh, yeah.
That little look in her eye, I've seen it on Instagram since, and it's absolutely fantastic. But you've chosen a herb and mushroom slice to tell this story. Put those two together.
Well, it was lovely, actually, because The Guardian featured the herb and mushroom slice. They did a picnic special. And I think for once, you know, magazines will do like these specials. For once, they got it right because The Sun came out this weekend. So I was just catching up with The Guardian this weekend, and it was in there. And what was lovely is for the Guardian shoot, because they've got their own shoot team, they didn't ask me to come in and cook it. They made it really chunky and like kind of like a Spanish tortilla wedgie-ness. And I haven't had it like that, and it looked luscious. Whereas I have it more flat and wide, almost like a savoury flapjack. And it's, as you said, herbs. It's mushrooms. It's a herb and mushroom slice. It's got egg in it, so it's got that frittata vibe, because you know I love a frittata, it being the perfect vehicle for using up whatever you've got. And then it's got some chickpea flour in and some mustard. So the mustard just adds like a little kick. You don't taste it. It just feels like warming. And then the chickpea flour just adds more body and heartiness. And I love chickpea flour, gram flour. If you don't know it, it just adds, lovely satisfaction levels. We're told so much to eat more chickpeas and beans. And so I will, if they tell me to. And it's one of those dishes that a big thing for me is food at all temperatures, because I feel like this is such an interesting one when you chat to people about, some people love their food like really hot. Some people love their food. Like my mum's got this thing where if she cooks, you have to be at the table with your knife and fork in the hand the second.
Me too.
And who's a burn your mouth eating right now? Look, the people that are right
my hand up here high.
Who likes, a little glass of wine? Let the flavours intermingle. Yeah. And who's loves eating food cold out the fridge?
Me.
Yeah.
I love it all.
Okay, so you see people feel quite passionate about this. So what I like about the herb mushroom slices, it's amazing freshly made. You can warm it through the oven. You can even sort of fry it, in a frying pan, lid on, steam it through. And then it's just amazing cold. So it's a great picnic. Well done, The Guardian, for putting it in the picnic special. Great packed lunch. Lovely with a mustardy salad dressing. You could even put it through some lovely bread and have it like as a sandwich. It would be amazing. So anyone that's got a road trip coming up, lovely. Bit of some cherries in the car or on the train.
Yes, absolutely. We will talk more about your recipe for joy, which comes out of that long 3 years that you've just been through. But we have to talk about Take That.
Okay.
Sorry. And actually, you've chosen it anyway.
Right.
Sticky spice nuts. These remind me of my private client days.
I thought you were going to say, these remind me of Take That, my sticky spice nuts.
And beloved bands. Actors, Hollywood actresses, come on, share a little bit about
No, I
private
can't.
chefing.
I can't.
NDAs.
Because, confidentiality.
You can't.
I could. I might say something if we weren't recording, but we're recording, so I can't. But no, I fell into being a private chef, and at a time where, do you remember the food world 15 years ago? There wasn't Instagram. You couldn't get recipes online. Most magazines didn't have an online presence either, because I remember my sister and I used to write for Vogue, and we gave them recipes, and we were like, can we give you recipes? And they were like, oh, okay, because they just needed to fill the pages of the online pages. And in the end, it became really successful. But at the time, people just needed people who were desperate to give free content, basically ours. And yeah, we used to cook. We had no qualifications in terms of, we didn't do the cookery schools. We didn't sweat our way through mountains of potato peeling in French restaurants. We didn't go through the Gordon Ramsay world. We just, there was a lot of, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't go through that way, because if you didn't, you weren't a proper chef. But we just kept cooking food for people that loved food, and wanted the energy fueling. And of course could afford it, because this was their business expense. This was their way of doing it. And directors would say, okay, I'll pay for this actor to have 3 months of food. You come and deliver it and we'll pay.
But it was super healthy, wasn't it? I mean, you were ahead of your time on that.
I mean, it was this kind of food. It was satiating, delicious food. There was a lot of frittatas and herb and mushroom. I mean, just the food that would keep well, that would be, yes, easy on the eye, because I think it's so important that food looks gorgeous, because that gets the digestive juices going. And especially when you're not cooking, you need your food to get you going. That's all going to help the digestion. Of course, when you're cooking food and you're frying onions, it gives you a chance to start salivating and get the digestion going. So, of course, it's gorgeous. What I'm trying to say is, of course, I think our food looks good, but it's not the be all and end all. Like, I never want to say I don't like certain things about food, but I don't like big, long tasting menus. I don't like fussy food. It just for me, it detracts away from the social side of food. I know lots of people feel differently. They believe it adds to, but for me, it's, if it can be simpler, if it can be delicious and nutrient rich, which sounds so like not very sexy or appealing, but I mean more like
sticky nuts.
Okay, back to the name of the recipe, sticky spice nuts. Okay, so what have I said here? Oh, yes. Well, again, cast your mind back 15 years ago. You basically got salted peanuts. If you wanted nuts, you got salted peanuts. If you want, or maybe some pork scratchings. But now there's so many lovely ways to flavor your nuts. So there's there's tamari, there's a little bit of maple syrup, there's paprika, I feel like there's lots and lots of different ways. And of course, when you're bored with sticky, spicy nuts, you then know you can move on to chickpeas and beans, because they're even more fun to roast and fry and much cheaper too. But yeah, sticky spice nuts will always remind me of, do you guys know a lot of people at festivals, they use the compostable it's called vegware. And 15 years ago, you couldn't find it anywhere. So we used to order like huge amounts of it, because you could only order huge amounts of it. And we only ever had like 2 or 3 clients at a time. And I just remember just making so many sticky spice nuts and just packaging them up. And each piece of the packaging was like 50p for a lid, like £1 for the bottom. Just trying so desperately not to break them. And, you'd get a call saying, someone's landing from South Africa, or someone's turned back on their flight from South Africa, so now they need this. And it was just like, whoa, how did we find ourselves in this world of
celebrity chefing?
Well, it was just a bit bizarre, but also very fun.
Yeah.
And that was how I learnt my trade, I guess, because but at the same time, I was always, because it wasn't something that I set out to do. I wanted to be a doctor. I was sort of on a bit of a sabbatical here, a bit of a sabbatical there. I said, I'm not going to work with any clients that aren't kind and I don't want to be around, because a lot of the time we were in their homes and around their families. And it was a really lovely way to work. And it was really hard work at the same time. But it was basically, I'd think every day, what do I fancy eating today? Because I could kind of eat the leftovers. So it was very much my food. And I used to take pictures on my phone and like text a friend and be like, this is what I'm doing today. But there was no recipes. So when eventually someone asked us to write a book and we said, we don't feel qualified to do this, like huge imposter syndrome. And then they went away and then they came back and we went, okay, let's try it. We had to learn that you have to actually write a recipe. And now it is something that is very important to me, that recipes are tested 5, 6, 7 times, because, again, you're parting with your hard-earned cash to buy the ingredients, you're giving it a go. So sticky spice nuts will remind me of Take That forevermore. And, I do love a little sprig of rosemary in there too, because it just makes everything smell better. Are you a rosemary fan?
I love a bit of rosemary. Before we go on to the Q&A, I do want to bring that together with this other and possibly even bigger kind of presence that you have on Instagram, which is really sharing your journey. We were at the Happy Place Festival only 10 days ago or whatever, and Melissa was joined by Donna Lancaster, who some of you may know, doing the recipe for joy. And this is something that is really very much part of everything that you do, isn't it? It is about inspiring people to really listen to their own mental health, take it seriously, get help,
do a lot of retreats. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that before we go into the Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't ever been on a retreat and has the opportunity to go on one, I mean, there's obviously 1,001 different types of retreats, but I just love being away. Even if you love your life and love your routines, it's so great to step away. And for me, it's been a sanctuary when I was going through IVF, because IVF is just so injection-y and medical, and as holistic as I tried to make it. On top of that, I did feel very out of touch with myself and quite angry at my body, and why, well, all of that. And to go on retreat, to sort of be like anonymous in yourself, like you're there as part of community. And whenever I go and do something and they say, let's go around the room and share, I think, oh my God, no. And I want to run out the room. And then when, I don't know if anyone else feels the same, it's like, everybody say your name. You're like, no, I don't know. I don't want to look at you. I want to say my name. I don't want to know your name in the best will of the world. I just, I'm here. I've made it here, and I'm already proud of myself for making it here. But then you realize when you then leave that situation, how important it is to be in community. And again, I went on this mental health mates walk. Do you have a mental health mates walk in Hove or Brighton?
Probably.
I'm going to Google it. Or can someone Google mental health mates Brighton Hove? Because if you don't have, well, I think you'll have one. So I was taking part in one in St. John's Wood near Regent's Park last night. And the idea being you moving for your mental health and walk and talk. And after my father died, the hospice that my father was at had this thing called walk and talk. And I think a lot of people do it. The idea being that you could just walk and you could talk if you want, and you could also not walk if you didn't want to. It was very relaxed. But the idea being that walking and talking, it has positive benefits, and sort of we're looking at each other like this, but you could not look at each other if you felt more comfortable that way. And we were talking about loneliness and how even when we're surrounded by people and maybe we have work, family, we feel lonely. And one thing that I love about going on retreat, as much as I said I always resist at the beginning this sharing, is how important it is to be in community with people. And Donna Lancaster, who's from around these ways, so do look out for retreats she might be running in Haywards Heath and Brighton and so on, because she is local. She always reminds of, yes, it is amazing to switch off and come away from people, but we exist in community. We come from tribes. It is, when you're feeling depressed, it's so easy to go within, and actually being with people is sometimes just the tonic. And I know through food that when I don't feel great, making food and giving a portion to someone is like a melting hot chocolate through my blood type feeling of it warms me up. And even if it feels so silly, and even if that person's like, no, you keep it, you look like you need that soup because you look terrible, I'll want to give it because that will make me feel better. So yeah, Recipe for Joy. Donna is a long-term family therapist. She was one of the lead Hoffman process therapists. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the Hoffman process. And then she set up her own thing, which is how I discovered her. And the way she works is that talking therapy is incredible, but also it's important to move feelings and trauma through the body. And I think there's quite a lot of more people talking about that now, somatic body movement and so on. Anyway, we thought, hey, let's team up and talk about ingredients that aren't, harissa and miso, but are actually ingredients for things that you could do that might bring some joy. So that's what we did. And you very kindly came along and supported us. And it was really good fun.
It was. And it's really important to use your platform, your massive platform, to be able to talk about mental health with that lovely lightness of touch. We're going to go to the Q&A, but can I just say thank you very much?
Thank you, Gilly. Thanks to you.
Thanks for listening. Head over to my Substack for the Q&A on extra bites and a recipe from Real Healthy. And I'll see you next week.